A very good morning. You're still watching NBS Morning Breeze, and this is a Media Roundtable. This day is special, particularly because we as journalists are really critically looking at press freedoms ahead of World Press Freedom Day, which will take central in our conversations today. But that's not all. We'll also be diving into the issues that are currently revolving and unfolding at the Democratic Party. But I am very pleased to be joined by a stellar panel, one that has a distinguished gentleman and a lady, senior journalist in this country. I am joined this very morning by Rugendo Arineitwe, a senior journalist. I'm joined by Gloria Nakajubi this very morning, Solomon Seranja and Sulaiman Kakaire this morning. We will be getting into this conversation. My name is Tracy Kansime, and well, let's just get into it. It is a Friday, of course, explains the white you know, was there a memo we didn't get with the shoes? me and, did you get we are the only ones that do not have this?
It's just a Friday. It's a way of dressing.
It's a way of dressing. But gentlemen, I'm very pleased to have you with us. Let's just get into it. Rugendo, let's start with you. Perhaps you want to say hello to our audiences and perhaps just climax for us how the week went for you in terms of current affairs, but also maybe something special personally.
Oh, thank you very much. Good morning, viewers. I'm back. I've not been here for some time because of what I'm engaged in. Kakaire knows about it, and Seranja. But how did the week go? Oh, very phenomenal. First of all, as a staunch Catholic, I'm still mourning the Holy Father. And we are following, we're quite following what is going on in the pre-conclave activities, and we hope that from May 7th, we're going to witness history, and I'm really following every minute detail of what is taking place, because usually when the paper say changes, history also changes. You don't know what is coming with the new paper say and how the new Pope is going to get engaged. First of all, the city of Rome and the world, what we call Ubi et Orbi in Latin. But apart from that, now here domestically, there's quite a lot that's been going on. Maybe this just incident which really left me a bit disturbed. The attack on the police station in Luboa was a bit worrying, and there's quite a lot going on there. The quarrels in the inter-party, whatever cooperation, whatever it is, the DP and others, the quarrel, UPC and this and that, I think you've seen that. And of course, what is charity begins at home, World Press Freedom Day, because we all know, especially lately, you know, from the incidents that took place in Kawempe and the beating of journalists, the threats against the media by people, by state actors, different state actors, threats about media being enemies of the state, statements that really have cut through the relationship that is supposed to exist in a democracy. Media and the state work together, and so some of these statements have been worrying, and I think World Press Freedom Day would not fall at the right time than this, and I hope that the different engagements, the different discussions that are going to take place today and in the subsequent few days will take us to a level where we can have not just formal engagements, but respect for each other's institutions and jobs.
Certainly, we can only hope. Gloria, how was your week? Current affairs, what had you, your hairs perhaps at the back standing, or perhaps actually better outlook?
Yeah, thank you very much, Tracy, and our viewers. I mean, it's been quite a very interesting week, you could say, and I think drawing from what Rugendo has just highlighted, a lot of these things, when you see them, you can't fail but to think about it, because this is 2025. We have an election coming up. You start to think about this through that kind of lens. you're like, okay, what are those maneuvers? Because a lot of these things are not just for the sake that they're happening for the sake of it. A lot of these are political maneuvers. I mean, we saw the case of Tororo the other day, the districts that have been formed. They're actually quite interesting. They're starting July. Yeah. I mean, it's quite fast. So you start to wonder, okay, like we've seen districts being promised, but then when they start or operationalize, actually takes some time. But when you see the times that we're in, and yeah, we start to look at them as political maneuvers. The ultimatums, the unions that we are seeing. I think for me, it keeps you, we can't say, because we always say that the election year actually starts like maybe 2 years prior to when the actual election actually happens. So I think for me, it has been more of where does the state want the population as we approach the election period. And like Regendo says, the statements that are actually happening, it's more of influencing how people think as we move towards the election. And we really cannot ignore those kinds of signals. Yeah, is it about, when we're talking about freedom of expression, how does the state want the population to interact as we get towards or closer to the election? So all these things that we are seeing really are not in vain. Yeah, they are not in vain. They might seem like kind of disconnected events, but I'm very certain they're actually not. Yeah, and a lot of times, because if you see statements, if you see the things that are actually occupying discussions, Ugandans' discussions, you realize that a lot of times, yes, they tend to create a certain kind of fear in the population. So there's a bit of more self-censorship. You see people putting out opinions, but then they add disclaimers like unpopular opinion. It's your opinion, own it. It doesn't have to be popular. Yeah, so I think for me, really, as we head towards the election year, a lot is happening, and we can't ignore these signals, but also the potential for these signals to affect how people interact, how people engage in the campaigns that are coming up, in the election that is coming up. I think that has been really the week for me. Yeah.
Interesting that you mentioned that, and definitely I'm going to jump to you, Solomon. She says these cannot be isolated incidents. Do you see a thin line joining the dots in what is happening and perhaps what's unfolding in this week's current affairs scene?
Firstly, I'm excited because the show I used to host now has new energy. Mildred is now
transition.
Off. There's a transition of power.
But perhaps Mildred is on leave.
I left the set. I think Canary held it. Mildred held it. Now we have a new Tracy on the show. It's good to. Now I'm the side. Yeah, but thanks for having us today. The epitome of this week for me was just yesterday night. I mean, for those of us who are on Twitter, we know what the CDF of this country just posted on his Twitter account. I know that many people are waking up to it. We know that when I want to deal with facts, firstly because I'm an investigative journalist, I don't deal with allegations. One, it's a fact that Eddie Mutoe was abducted. It's a fact that the National Unity Platform has come out to speak about this. It's also a fact that the top army boss of this country has an official Twitter account, which is verified. And whether he's joking or he's serious, it's content that is coming from his official Twitter account. It's a fact that if you go to his page, he has tweeted a picture of Eddie Mutoe, with his beard shaved and saying he cried when the boys arrested him, and his head now is as bald as an egg. It's also a fact that he said he's learning Ronyankole. These are official comments on the X platform of the top military boss in this country. And what really comes to mind is, what is the communication? What's the messaging that is going out there? And what does it mean when a top government official says that? And is there a mechanism of accountability where we can call people in power and ask them and hold them accountable for the statements they're saying? Is there a system and structure? And this is what worries me mostly as we get into elections. Do we have an accountability system where people are held, they're held to account? We're going in an election where in the past we've seen the army beat journalists right before our own eyes. By the time you beat up someone who is rolling a camera, and you know that they are rolling a camera, but you don't care, it means that you have a strong backing somewhere. You know that the cameras rolling, these are journalists who report, and you beat people up. I worry that we are becoming a nation that has decided to take a back seat as a citizenry and watch everything crumble down, and we do nothing about it because we are scared of what is going to happen to us. When social evil happens in our societies and we who have the platforms decide to keep quiet about these things, eventually we are just betraying our own selves, because tomorrow it will be us. And the next day you have the top official praising the people who beat people up. So, and we all talk about it, but nothing is done. Ask people who, the top journalist, top TV reporter, who almost lost his eye. Ask Irene Abalo, who was beaten during the previous elections. To date, Irene is still undergoing surgeries. Ask Ashraf Kasirye, who
represented Ashraf Kasirye in court.
Yeah, ask Ashraf Kasirye, who is no longer here, who is still doing surgeries in the US, who has since left his country and a professional. Ask Abubakar Lubowa from the Daily Monitor, who was beaten. Ask the Spark reporter who was beaten. Ask, people who have... Daisy Sano from here, who still nurses wounds right now. And at least he got an apology, from the top military organ in this country. But these things happen in our country. And, because everyone, my brother Rugendo sometimes fears to speak out. Like, what will, if these people see, if I say these things, what will happen? But look,
you've been to Narfenya?
But
the time they run after you, I remember.
Yeah, of course. But I'm just saying that we have a moral responsibility as a citizenry to actually call these people out, to say, this is not the Uganda we want. This is not the country we want to live in. Because we have... There's a place we have to get to as a country. I think it's a famous statement from D.K. Mpanga, who said that we will not get to that place until when we develop a central nervous system that we feel each other's pain, whether you're part of the establishment or out of the establishment. We need to feel each other's pain to say,
empath.
We absolutely cannot go like this. Mr. Rugendo talked about SFC people beating police officers. They beat them up thoroughly, because they had brought suspects who had been beaten, and the police officer said, we can't, take these people in. They beat them up. In my view, as I conclude, I want to go with facts again. I want to say that all of us as a country need to stand up and say, some of these things can't keep happening. Whether you're a reverend, a sheikh, a journalist, part of the establishment within the army or the police or the government, you have to stand up and call these things out. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Solomon. Definitely coming to you, Kyrie, we need to understand if, in your opinion, there was anything more outstanding in the week as we get into the conversation now.
Thank you. To me, I think when you sit down and you're watching news or following events, some of the things appear like drama. and they have become part of the daily routine. If you want entertainment, actually, you just need to sit down and watch news, and you see it. It's like drama. But what is I would not look for something outstanding because most of the things appear like it's the norm. Dr. Besigye is spending how many months now in prison? He was in court this week. And that's a story that should concern everyone. Honorable Chagulani's bodyguard, close friend, I don't want to even treat this gentleman as just Honorable Chagulani's close, but one of the top leaders of NUP is incarcerated. Most continue to be incarcerated. I look, this last week, I received a communication from an official at Uganda Human Rights Commission, Masaka branch, asking me about cases I'd filed for some people who are victims of electoral violence. They were victims in 2021. Some of them have bullets in their bodies. And the lady said, please, we want now to attend to these matters. I said, okay, maybe. So we have many who have been victims of this, and we are going for another election. But what surprises me is, you gentlemen, Solomon, you look at these as shortcomings of the establishment. But there is something which is happening, and I don't know whether people are paying attention to it. The tilt in the balance of power between military and civil relations is so huge. The foundation of the modern state has been founded on the management of those civilian-military relations, because inherently the modern state is militarized. But the bone of consensus has been to manage that. Now, when it comes to establishments like ours, because when you look at Uganda, modern Uganda, starting from 1986, was largely shaped by that. Because what you, as the civilians, call your main charter, the constitution, was given to you by the military. The military government of NRA wing came up with the Constitutional Commission, gave it to you. But increasingly, whenever you have a conversation about your relations, the military increasingly has more power over determining the outcome of those negotiations and conversations. Whatever you're seeing, the military is increasingly shaping public life in Uganda. And I don't know what's going on. I mean, the elite. We appear so resigned, and we assume, most of us, we assume that, well, we are integrated. We are part of it. But whenever we fall out in respect of either opinion or what, the military comes in. I mean, the arrest of journalists, let me just conclude this thought. The arrest of journalists is just a symptom to a bigger thing. You're talking about journalists being arrested. I mean, we've seen the military enter monitor and declare it a scene of crime. We've seen the military enter Red Pepper. I remember my brother Rugendo here, Red Pepper was closed. Uganda Journalists Association sued the government. I deponed the affidavit in respect of that matter, as my brother Rugendos were going to State House to negotiate opening, because even the court system is part and parcel of whatever we are talking about. So it's absurd. It's unfair. But we can't just say it's unfair and we resign. We have to continue pushing. But that pushing must come from a recognition, from an understanding, from conceiving that this is the nature of system we are dealing with. When we wake up every day and come to these radio talk shows, it gives a semblance, like a symbolism that Uganda is democratic. People come, critique government, go back home, what. But the sustainability of these platforms, you don't discuss them, the underlying denominator. Today we are in a week where we have to celebrate World Press Freedom Day. Take out the roster on the NRM performance when it comes to media sector. They said, okay, we liberalize the media and say we are opening up to the market. But the model under which the media is regulated of saying that let the market take charge of it, you can't leave it to the market. When you've left it to the market, we've seen the falling of indigenous businesses. No single serious, apart from maybe Next Media. But how is government helping Next Media when you say the same government is not interested in building this platform? Because under Section 3 of the Uganda Communications Act, government is very clear. Minimize subsidies to media operations. So let the market take charge. But how many investors in Uganda are willing to invest in that media? Here now I'm talking about media development. Right now, all of us have been journalists in the newsrooms. And by the way, highly scholarly journalists. The last time I was winning awards, I remember that time, Solomon, you had also won awards about ACME. We won the Uganda National Journalism Awards. All of us have left the newsroom. When I won the David Astor Best Journalist in the country in 2014, Gloria in 2015 became. She has also left. Mr. Rugendo here. All of us have left. All of us now, I mean, people have moved, now I'm in legal practice and academia. Because media cannot afford to pay perhaps the quality of who we've become. So media development, media capacity as an industry to run, what is the role of government? I'm not saying it. Now when it comes to whatever the framework we've got accustomed to, freedom of expression, I've told you, there is a shrinking civil space. The military has taken over completely. Full circle. And if people are not ready and willing to engage in that conversation, because people might be ready, but when they are not willing, they might be willing when they are not ready. I've told you there must be a conscientization of the population to understand that this is what it means. You're saying, oh, we are going for elections, but the situation of the media, the situation of freedom of expression, that is all hogwash. Elections, you're going to them just as to window dress and legitimize a process which has been full circle. The process, it has been like this from the word go.
Sulaiman, thank you for those submissions. I just want to jump in right here with Arinator. And I want to speak about the situation that unfolded in the Kawempe North by-elections. And what, from your experiences, are those patterns that are emerging or have been here from that experience that you think are a telltale sign of the situations that will unfold in the 2026 general elections? But also, are journalists or the media, members of the press, are we the collateral in this situation?
Thank you. First of all, of course, I see my young brother there, Isano. Isano knows exactly, has a better experience in Kawempe than myself, because I think at that time I was just I was in the outer ring of Kampala when all these incidents were happening. But I can assure you, to begin with, it's just not my own experience, but right-thinking people within the state were very concerned. And I'm not surprised even when I saw some of the statements, especially from the high echelons of power, trying to explain and also caution. I don't know, actually, warn about, the excesses by some of the security forces and how they handle media. But for me, the telltale signs are, first of all, if I can borrow from Kakaire, the nature of the state now in Uganda is a state that looks besieged, in my view. Looks besieged because in the last election, the state lost certain key grounds. And that was Uganda and Busoga, Kakaire, where he comes from. Me, my home, my place, everybody voted 80, 90%. But then you have so you have Uganda about 20%, then Busoga 19, 20, something like that. Then you move into Bukedi areas and Bugisu. There was a problem, and these are strongholds. I think Uganda, if I can say, is the cradle land of the NRM, and it really pains to see that the NLM is losing its credo land. And so panic has set in. You have a party which is heavily divided to the core. I have been interacting with some of them of late because there are certain formations starting to happen ahead of the elections. And so people are trying to jostle and try to create different formations to be able to see how best does the party, the NRM party, run the next election. So I've been trying to pick a few signals here and there. So now, because of that situation, so the easiest scapegoat is the media, because none of them in the state, none of those actors want to accept that they have failed, or they have gone overboard, or they have failed to deliver certain promises, certain obligations, and so therefore they always find something to blame, and this is what has been happening. If you look at it, they will say it is Serwa Anja who is the enemy, that cowboy with a rounded head. You know how they talk. Monta is the proper enemy now. For us who are decimated, when you talk as red paper, they say, no, for you have nothing to say. After all, you have failed to run your newspaper. That's that condescending attitude from some of them. And you see, and the attack is on the legacy media. So you have also the others. So I asked them during the commotion in Kawempe, I said, well, who's creating these images in Kawempe? Is it the media? Or it is your people, your actors who are creating these images. So what do you want the media to do? I also came to understand that I think there's a problem with the way some of the security forces in this country understand how media works. They think that, by just somebody moving around with a camera, he's a coin-like pharaoh, he's a terrorist. So somebody is supposed to be stopped. But then they forget, I think we'll be talking about it later on, that technology has now enabled anybody with a smartphone to record 1 or 2 simple 3 videos. So the panic is that ordinary citizens, whom I would call citizen journalists, are also posting some of these videos about the excesses. If you look at how this boy was beaten, Isano did not record himself. Somebody else did it. Must have been somebody in a shop, a small shop somewhere, and posted it somewhere on TikTok. And it goes different places. And so what you have is a very bad image of Uganda out there. Actually, if you just Google, put Uganda, put Malaysia, put Mauritius, put Kenya, you'll see what comes out. It is these images created by these same people that are out there. And you can't blame the media. You must blame the people who are producing these images. And that was very clear in Kawempe. And the territory signs are very clear. And I think what we saw there was a simple rehearsal of what is going to happen in the coming election, because the coming election, the stakes are high. And the challenge has been state actors failing to explain. They have done some good things, by the way, for your information. Some good things somewhere. Yeah. They've done some good things somewhere. We must sometimes give credit where it is due. But there's nobody to explain. Who's explaining these things? So when you don't explain them, then anybody with a smartphone occupies that space. Nope will occupy the space, all the others also occupy the space. And because now the civil military space has shrunk, because it used to be Uganda People's Army, Uganda People's Defense Forces. So now the defense forces are now beating people, and that tells you how the space has shrunk. And when it shrinks, the only space that citizens can hold their government and their state actors accountable becomes the media. So, but then, how do you ensure that the citizens do not actually use the media? So you crack down on the media. When you crack down on the media, the citizens have nowhere to express themselves. So what happens is the state now has to monitor who's posting what, where are they located, and if you look at the Mirongoti, you'll be able to locate where Gloria is seated, and just in a few minutes you'll find Gloria being taken to Rosetta. To be able to send that fear that we don't need any discussion. And so that is worrying for me, very, very much worrying. because I thought that an open, transparent media is good for the country. And if you look at the structure, the political economy structure of the media in Uganda, apparently, you guys go and do your research. Apparently, you know, like 90% of media houses in this country are owned by either state actors or people close to the state.
Yeah.
So what is the panic for? If your own people are now enemies, they're running these media channels, they are now enemies. So where do we go? So
There is a
so for me, Kansime, the challenge is about the state, one, failing to explain its achievements, but also panicking. And when you panic, then the media become the victim. And that contestation has never been won. And you really want to warn some of our people, our friends in the state, you cannot win a war with the media. You can only engage in a protracted, constructive discussion. This condescending attitude all the time that the media are enemies of Uganda, that they are the ones, you know, who has, is it the media, for example, that have stolen iron sheets? Are they the ones stealing money here? Are they the ones beating people? They're not. So, but these are the images that the state of Uganda and its actors have decided to produce. When you produce these images, somebody with a smartphone will take it, and there's nothing we're going to do about it. So that actually, for me, also shows that technology has really helped to liberate the media. And ensure that everybody can communicate. It's a very, very good thing. But ensure that what we communicate is a nice thing, is a good thing. We will only communicate what we see. What we don't see, we will not communicate it. If we communicate what we have not seen, you are the lawyer, the mechanisms are there. You know, you can take me to court, you can sue me, defamation, you can do anything you want. Those systems, those mechanisms are there. But that you can hold a stick and you beat Isano. You can't argue with him. You can't understand that he's doing his job just like you who's also doing your own job. It's a worrying situation for even some of us who have once in a while sympathized with the state, but you sit somewhere and you're like, how do I now defend this? How do I really explain this to anybody who knows I'm a friend to the CDF or I'm a friend to Andrew Mwenda and other groups? It is really, so people have also retreated. The good voices, or what they call the voices of reason, are in retreat. So when they are in retreat, so the citizens are left on their devices. And when they are left on their devices, then the media has to rethink its strategy and come in. And I agree with you, Solomon, that we have a duty to do in a situation where, in constrained settings, it is the only hope that the citizens have is the media, and they must be informed. They must have the right information. And for me, what we need to do now is to ensure that, as we head into this period, different agencies or actors within the electoral process, the political parties, the electoral commission, the security forces, must come together and understand that the information system is a serious stakeholder that must be engaged to ensure that the right information comes out. The citizens deserve information. You cannot stop information. If you stop it, then you are becoming a dictatorship.
Well, I just want to jump in right there and just ask Laurie about the situation from what he says. When you talk about contestation between security forces and the media, we are at a level where things have escalated so bad that there is perhaps what you would call a blackout of some sort with different entities. As we head into the Press Freedom Week and as we celebrate this, what kind of approach must these two actors established to ensure that as we head into the election season, at least that does not remain the case? Because at the end of it all, someone's mandate and work is not being done. There is a nation that is being denied of information, and this cannot be good for anyone.
Yeah, very interesting. You know, I think the biggest illusion that we have as a people is to try and think that one aspect of the state of governance can operate exclusive of the other. And it is also to expect that in a shaky and fledgling democracy like ours, that we're actually going to see a very vibrant, free, and a very, because what we see as governance, because this press freedom, freedom of expression, all those are key tenets of good governance. But if we are seeing the same happening in the other sectors, this is definitely going to reflect on what we see happening in the media. Yeah, and if the state has actually failed on the other aspects of governance, if the state is, like my colleagues have highlighted, is going up against the other organs, then what is so special about the media that they are not actually going to do? And it also comes down to the principles, the underlying governance principles. Yeah, if there is this whole apathy about the role of the media, about the role of information, and the assumption that actually people are supposed to not have a mind of their own, but be told to do, which is very, on the other side, which is very self-defeating. If you have a country where we're actually talking about a demographic dividend, if you're going to have young people, you've opened up the media, young people are accessing information, there are all these influences from all the other parts of the world. We're talking about a global village. You can't tell us that, okay, you know what, you can actually control what people think, you can control how people think. That is definitely not going to happen. So I think we need to get to that point. I don't know if that is also going to happen, because the truth is, like I've already indicated, if the state has failed to deliver on the other indicators that actually contribute to what we call a good governance, then definitely there is going to be curtailing of that desire by the population to be able to access what they think is actually dutifully or rightfully belongs to them, and that is the freedom of expression. So it's a very tricky situation, and of course there's going to be issues around, they always use that as an excuse, national security, but how do you balance between national security and ensuring that actually people still enjoy their rights to express themselves and be able to hold leaders to account? Yeah, it's a very tricky balance, but that has to happen. That definitely has to happen. And the state has to come to an appreciation that you have this very energetic population that actually is thirsty to see things changing. You can't be operating in 2025 as you did in 1986, and the 2021 election definitely cannot be the same as 2025. There's a whole lot of information that is happening, information exchange, there's a whole lot of influences that are happening, and definitely as a state you need to appreciate that. But again, it's more about the principles, underlying principles of governance. If they don't care, yeah, we hold power, but is there an appreciation that actually we have a social contract? You hold this power on our behalf. Yeah,
Gloria, I'm definitely going to put a pin in that. We'll definitely come back to that conversation in just a little bit. We do take a breather, but the Media Roundtable returns in just a bit.